Welcome back to Monetizing an API with Zuplo. In this series, we have covered setting up an API gateway with Zuplo, adding monetization to that gateway, and then finally also adding an MCP server that can be used with our API, all of which fully monetized with developer portal, self-serve API keys, and the ability to subscribe and upgrade and downgrade various different price plans. Now, in this video, what we're going to cover is taking the developer portal and making it look a little bit better than it currently does, adding some documentation and kind of getting to our overall final state. This is where we're trying to get to something that looks a little bit more clean, something that has actual documentation in there that, alongside the API reference and all of the other monetization aspects that we put in place in the previous videos. Now, as you can see, the one that we have, the state that we're at with the project that we've been working on is what we have. We've got an API reference that's fully functional, with an API playground attached to API keys. You can go ahead and naturally use this. This is great from a developer experience point of view. Cool, you can do everything that you would need to do right here. This is out of the box, and that's great, right? The base level of what you get from Zuplo for your developer portal is superb. You've got customization options directly inside of your project. But there's a couple of things here that we're missing, right? If we're really taking this out into the world and want people to start paying for it, they're really going to expect an overall better documentation experience than we have here. So the reference is cool. Our documentation leaves a little bit to be desired, because right now it's just the base thing that Zuplo sets up for you once the developer portal gets built. And there's a bunch of information in here which is useful and helps you out with it, but we need to get rid of this because it's not relevant to our particular project. Actually, we're going to use Claude Code to do this. There's been no AI up to this point in this series of videos. We've done everything with actual code and the UI that we offer for all of the monetization stuff. But to do this, we can actually generate some pretty good documentation that's going to help us get to a better state, and also do some other customizations inside of the Zudoku configuration as well, just by using one simple prompt. So let's go ahead and kind of get to the point of doing that. So we'll go over to the project that we have set up. And this is the area that we're going to work in now, this docs folder right here. This Zudoku config basically handles pretty much every aspect of the developer portal, and you can edit it directly in here if you want to. But what I'm going to do is actually connect this whole project to GitHub now, and I'm going to clone that to my local machine, do some work on the documentation in Claude Code, and then push it back up here and bring the project back into this UI, and then look at it from that point. So in order to do that, I'm going to click on GitHub and connect to repository. And then I'm going to create a new repository on my GitHub account, and we'll call it changelog. This is all fine. We'll set it to private right now. We don't need it to be public. We'll create that repository. Okay, so that's done. We can jump back here and you'll see that in a second, changelog will pop up there and I can connect to that particular repository. And what this is going to do is, as it connects, it's going to take this whole code base from here and push that as a commit to that repository. So that's now going to be on the main branch inside of that repository. And if we click down here again, I can go to the repository and you can see all of the code has been pushed in here with README as well. So that's great. We're now connected between Zuplo and the GitHub account that I have. Now we need to get this code local. So we'll do that in the usual way. We will grab this SSH and then head over to a fresh terminal. Okay, here we are. It's quite a big terminal. Let's clone the project. Okay, we've got it. So now we'll jump into this. Okay, now right now we're on the main branch, and when we're doing work here, we don't want to do that. We don't want to be on the main branch for this. We want to create something that's going to contain the documentation changes that we're going to be making. So we will check out a new branch called docs. This is where we're going to work from this point on. So if we just do a quick ls in here, you can see we've got the same structure with config, docs, and modules as we have here set up inside of Zuplo. So all of the code that you have locally is the same code that's going to be reflected back in the UI and the project itself. So to do some docs, let's set Claude up. Yes, I trust this folder. Okay, so we want to say that I want you to use the roots.os JSON as the basis for great developer documentation in this developer portal. Please create new docs in the docs folder and use Zudoku best practices to do so. I want to use a theme, and I do in this case. Zudoku supports TweakCN themes, ShadCN themes, so you can actually supply those and it will implement that complete color scheme for you. So I'm going to do that too. This is the URL for it. And I'll show you this theme. Just take out the R from here, I think. Yep, this is the one. The Bain design system is the one that I'm going to use. It's got nice bold colors and stuff to it. I think it looks pretty good. There's loads of themes here on TweakCN, and it's really easy to apply them to a Zudoku project. You just need the URL for it, and it will apply all that CSS on top of it, which is awesome. Okay, so we're going to use that theme in order to understand Zudoku correctly. You can use the docs. Here they are. Now I'm going to give Claude the Zudoku documentation. Now Zudoku is the open source project that powers the developer portal for Zuplo. We built it ourselves and it's awesome. It's highly configurable. There's loads of stuff that you can do with it. If you dig into the documentation, you'll see just how much you can do with it. It's a really great experience, and out of the box, it's really great to work with, especially the playground for actually interacting with API requests is really solid. It's also open source, so if you wanted just a great developer portal, then you can use Zudoku to power that, and it's based off of OpenAPI. So if you've got an OpenAPI document and you've got somewhere to host it, then you are pretty much good to go. Just use Zudoku for that. But of course, if you want a gateway as well, do all the monetization stuff that we've been doing inside of this 3-part series, 4-part series up to this point, have an MCP server, then you can do it with Zuplo, and you're going to get a Zudoku developer portal out of the box as well, which is cool. So I'm going to use the llms.txt as a reference here, just so it can go dig into the documentation if it needs to. Here they are. So I think we're good to go with that prompt. It's going to use the roots.oas.json, which is basically the OpenAPI specification for the project. I'm going to have Claude read that first so it understands like all of the different API routes that we have and how it all works. And based off of that, it's going to create the documentation for me. It's going to apply the theme that I've asked into the Zudoku config. And if there's anything that Claude gets confused about, it has a reference for the llms.txt for the documentation as well. So let's let Claude get to work on doing that. Claude's going to be grooving. And once Claude's done, we'll come back and we'll take a look at how it turned out. Okay, Claude has finished. 4 minutes and 9 seconds of crunching has led to 7 additional documentation pages covering all different aspects of what happens with this particular API and how to use it. So that's great. A bunch of other different things. It's changed the title to match the actual name. Added a bunch of metadata as well, and done some redirects work to make sure that the landing page for the documentation is the actual docs and not the API reference, which is the default that you get. And it's removed stuff that isn't needed anymore. One of the other things that I'm going to have it do is create a logo real quick, because right now the default logo is this, my dev portal, which is not great. We're going to need something that actually says the name of the service in here. So let's get an SVG that just says changelog in there as well. Okay, now we've got a logo in there as well. I think we're good to go. Let's take a look at this. So what we can do is, if I open up a new terminal tab, we will just npm install the project real quick, and then we'll run up the dev server for documentation, and we can take a look at the changes that Claude made locally before we push that back to GitHub and ultimately back to our Zuplo project. Okay, let's do the dev server for docs. We can do npm run docs and localhost 9200. Okay, let's see what we came up with. All right, great. So we are looking much better. We've got documentation for one, which we didn't have before. That's awesome. Introduction. We've got a quick start, details on authentication. This is great. We've got the guides on projects, change logs, filtering and search, and some advanced stuff again around the MCP server and errors as well. This is awesome. And of course the API reference, which comes out of the box. No changes needed in there. It's already superb. So a couple of things that we need to change with this. Obviously, we can see that there's duplication in here. The title of the pages has been used both times, and we need to change that. So we'll get Claude to make those changes real quick. But otherwise, I think kind of looking pretty good with all of this. It's pretty in depth. All of the elements that we would need to provide a really good getting started experience are here. So this is fantastic. Let's check the MCP server page real quick as well. And this is nice. You can see that this is determined that actually based on the code in the project, that the MCP server is only available to people on the starter or pro plan. So it's actually listed that out here. We haven't had to tell Claude to do this. It's just determined that access is only available for people on certain plans, which is great. And you do want to highlight stuff like this inside of documentation, especially when you've got a monetized API, to make sure people really understand what it is that they're going to get if they're on a free plan, and especially if they're on a paid plan. So let's make the changes to make sure that we don't have this level of duplication in here, and then we'll get this pushed back to Zuplo and wrap things up. Okay, that should have taken care of things, and it has. We are all good with everything that we've got going on here. Headers clean, no duplication, everything looking like it should. I'm very happy with that. Nice logo created by Claude as well. Nice little icon in there. Very good. All right, let's get this back onto Zuplo now. In order to do that, we will shut this server down. And we need to commit all of those changes. So we'll just go with git add, and we'll say everything that got changed. Commit adding documentation. Great. Okay, so that's committed. Right, let's git push to the branch. In this case, we've got a docs branch, so we'll do that. And what this is going to do on Zuplo is, as it gets pushed in here, we go to this environments tab in the project. Now you'll see that we've got our preview has popped up, and it's our docs branch, and this is basically tied directly to the source control, tied directly to GitHub. So when you create new branches, you get a new deployed preview environment for that branch. So any changes that are made there, you can check in situ without having to have them mess up the working copy, which is like your local development version, or be, pushed straight to production, which you don't want, because obviously if you make changes and they're not good, you don't want them being directly live. And you can promote an environment to production from here if you're happy with it. So while that's building, we can actually go back over to our code tab. We can see that something has changed as well. We're now in a read-only state because we're actually on the docs branch in the UI at this point, and that can't be edited from here. The only thing that can ever be edited in the UI is the working copy. If you want to work on the docs branch, then it has to be done locally like I just did, and then any changes that get made needs to be committed to source control and pushed back there. Then they will be reflected in here, but you will only be able to see them in a read-only state. So we've got this. We can see that it's been updated with the files that we created, and that's what we pushed, so that's awesome. If we go to the deployment URLs up here now, we'll see that we've got two different states here too. We're not just on working copy anymore. We now have a developer portal available here as well, and this is the environment that we just did. So our preview environment is attached to that branch. So let's take a look at the changes that we pushed. Okay, great. This is exactly what we were expecting to see. This is a much nicer designed developer portal with loads of more documentation and a much nicer overall developer experience in here. So this is awesome. Happy with that. What I want to do now is get back to the point where all of this is reflected in my working copy. And the reason that I want to do that is because right now, working copy is the only place that I have all of the monetization stuff set up for this project. If you look down here at the bottom, you've also got the same concept of the environments as well. So there's the dev environment, which is working copy. We've got preview and production. And what this means for you is that if you're working on monetization, you can have different setups and try different things across different environments. So when you're getting things initially set up, you want to work across working copy for everything. But once you want to get into the point of working with staging or different branches, then preview is the place that you'll need to set this up. And of course, production is production. That is the one that is gospel and should not be touched. Once it's in there, that's what people are going to be using. That's what people are ultimately going to be paying for. So you do want to have places where you can make changes and experiment. And that's what this is great for. But if we look here at this preview environment, we've got nothing set up. So in order to actually see our new documentation changes in context with the monetization work that we've already done, we're going to need to get those changes back into the working copy. And we can do that really easily. If we head over to the code tab, we are on the docs branch right here, but let's switch over to working copy. And you can see that I've got the same base that I had before I made any changes. And what I can do is actually go here and I can pull from the docs branch directly back into working copy, so I can sync those up. And now when my gateway redeploys and when my developer portal rebuilds, I'm going to have all of the new documentation changes. I'm going to have all of the monetization work, all of the API gateway work that's been done in the project and the MCP server. Everything will be fully linked, fully aligned, and set up exactly the way that we want it. And we can start heading towards getting this out into the world in a production state for people to actually start to use and to ultimately pay for, which is great. So once this builds, we'll go through, we'll take a look at it, and that's where we're going to wrap things up for this video and for this series. Okay, now that's rebuilt and redeployed. Let's go and take a final look at the situation. Our working copy should be fully up to date now with everything that we want. So let's reload. Yes, our changes have taken effect. Our API reference is looking slightly different, but it was already great to begin with. What wasn't so great was this documentation. And now we can see that we are bang up to date with everything that we pushed to the docs branch, back in our working copy environment, ready for us to continue working if we want to. But now we can actually look at all of this in a kind of end-to-end state. So we've got our API gateway set up. We have our documentation and developer portal looking exactly how we want it. We've got monetization set up. We've got plans in place. We've got features in place. We have metering for API requests set up in place. We've got overages on the paid plans. We've got the MCP server available on paid plans and not on the free plan. And of course, the ability to register an account, log in, and do self-serve API keys as well. So a real full suite of experience there for an API, monetized in all of the right ways. Of course, there is so much more that you could also do with monetization and connection to features and various different gating. There's going to be a lot more content and a lot more videos about different aspects of that coming up on the channel. So do stay tuned for it. And of course, thank you very much for joining us on this series this week. If you came to this video first, then this might seem a little bit strange. Do go watch the first three where we get the gateway set up, we monetize the API, and we do the MCP server. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. Do check out all of the monetization documentation on zuplo.com/docs. And of course, if you have questions or you need some help in getting this set up for yourself, contact us. We're ready to hear from you. And of course, let us know if there's anything more that monetization can be doing for you. But that's it from me. I'll see you in the next one.